And we are live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine, guys. Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. With me tonight, I have two ladies from the Lady Bass Anglers Association. Name is Secret York and Cheryl Bowden. How are you two doing this evening?
Good.
Doing good, Jay. Doing good. Thank you. We appreciate you having us on.
You know, it's quite an honor. It's quite an honor to have the Lady Bass Anglers on. You know, I've had quite a few of them on over the years I've been doing this. In fact, Secret's been on my podcast before.
Yep.
So, first of all, Cheryl, why don't you tell us what the Lady Bass Anglers Association is?
It is a women's professional tour that operates as a co and pro or a pro-am. We have 3 regular season events and a championship each year. Our goal is to provide women an opportunity to fish with women of the same mindset and so forth. We try to fish our events pretty much from Texas to the East Coast. And I guess the furthest north that we go is North Carolina and so forth. And Secret almost has our 2023 schedule set up. She's pretty close on that.
So what kind of places do you have events at?
This year, we usually start out Texas, Louisiana, down in that area early, and then we just kind of move up. We're Alabama, we go Missouri, Arkansas. We've been North Carolina a few times. This is about as far up as we go. It's North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay. Tennessee too, I assume?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Well, it's one of my favorite places to fish. I just like the diversity of the bass fishery there, you know.
They've got a lot of them.
Both kinds of bass, largemouth and smallmouth. And Cheryl and I were talking about meanmouths. Boy, I haven't caught a meanmouth in years.
We get into those on bull shoals.
Yep.
That's what I heard. So bull shoals, what a fantastic place to fish. Got spots, it's got largemouths, got smallmouths, and I guess now I find out it has meanmouths. I might have called it meanmouth, not even known it.
They do look a little different and so forth. I hadn't caught any until the last day of the tournament. I didn't catch any in practice, but again, as I mentioned as we were talking before we started the podcast, I had to, after day 1, my bite just died, and so I went and changed techniques totally, and I caught them deep, and I actually caught 2 of them. But as also too, Bull Shoals was, I think when we got there, it was 30 feet high. They called it the dirty. They called it the dirty 30. And we were talking with folks. But I do want to compliment that. Yeah, I do want to compliment Anchor Point. There, the campgrounds. They Highway 125 Marina and the Copperfish. They were outstanding. They did an amazing job. Great locations to go, great places for you to host tournaments, or just go and just have a great week or weekend of fishing.
It's fantastic. I love it when places really go the extra mile and make you feel comfortable coming into a tournament situation, because you have a lot of stress on you as a tournament angler. You're coming in, you got your 50 different rods, and like you and I were discussing, problems with electronics, problems with batteries, problems with ignitions, problems with they're just endless. You know, when you have people who make you feel comfortable, it just makes it that much easier. Oh,
they did an amazing job. The guys, what was the gentleman's name at the 125 Marina?
Derek.
One of the ladies couldn't find the oil that she needed for her motor. He drove and found it for her after hours and brought it to her. Wow. So that's just the kind of things that they did to help make the event a great event.
Y'all were in Arkansas, right?
Yes, we were in Peel, Arkansas.
My mother lives in Arkansas, and I have met a lot of people like that in Arkansas. They're just welcome. They'll go out of their way to help a stranger.
Well, those 3 businesses right there, all 3 of them are run by tournament owners, and they run them. They're tournament anglers yourself, so they know what it takes to, to put that show on and cater to the anglers themselves. So, and it's perfect.
Well, we have a comment from a viewer. It's Cajun Rob. He's from actually southern Kentucky, and he says that Cherokee Lake in Tennessee that he fishes quite a bit has loads of mean mouse in it. I'd like to catch some of them someday, and I'd be able to identify them. I'm sure I have. I've fished all those places.
Well, Arkansas now counts it as they count it as a small. They do it in the measurements as a smallmouth. That's their state regulation. So that's how they are addressing it in the state of Arkansas.
So on the Bass and Magazine podcast, we like to talk to the guy who has to work all week and gets to fish on the weekends sometimes. So you two were on Bull Shoals. It's up 30 feet. Did the lake fill up with mud?
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
Not much mud rolls off them rocks.
Okay. I didn't know, a lot of the places I fish, down here in Louisiana, if it gets muddier, it just, it's just the way it is, man. It's always muddy. But so it's up 30 feet. How did y'all adjust the way that you were fishing to a varying levels of water?
For me, I just found waters that looked like home. And at home, when the water's up, the fish get up in the brush. And that was the first way that I approached it. I looked for some stuff that was deep. The secret's the expert on the deep stuff. We don't have that in Texas. Deep for us is, 30 feet, and she's used to fishing stuff that's much deeper than that, or drops off into much deeper than that. So I went.
Oh, I live on Kentucky Lake.
Okay. Sorry for interrupting, Cheryl. Go ahead.
So I just went and found stuff that looked like I would fish at home. And then, but I did look for some stuff that was deeper. I did mark some stuff on my electronics, just in case. But during practice, I had plenty of fish shallow, and I did so on the first day of the tournament. But day 2, that just turned absolutely upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So was the water level rising as you were fishing or falling?
I know
That's steady, I think, a little bit.
it was relatively steady, but I think that we noticed that on the first day of the tournament and the second day of the tournament that the water was dropping.
Yeah, it was dropping.
So that changed some things.
Man, now I understand, Cheryl. Like you said, your bite just fell apart. It's a different lake. When the water is rising and the water is falling, it's a different lake, and you got to fish. You have to approach it differently because all of a sudden, the way the water is flowing, depending on where you're fishing, the water flow has changed.
Yeah,
when it's going up. It's going up again. When it's going up onto the land, then it starts flowing off of the land.
But I found some key brush, the trees and stuff that I was pulling stuff off of, and I could go back there every day and I could find them. Now, Secret, I think you were fishing differently than that.
I started just like you said. It was up in the backs of the creeks and the little ditches, runoff ditches with the brush laydowns or just buck brush. It was, some of the buck brush was 5-6 foot underwater.
Yeah.
He's talking about the water falling. That lake, the banks are so, well, there's not a bank. It's rock cliffs and, the ends of the bluff walls and stuff. So if the water raises a foot, actual foot in measurement, it goes 6 foot up that wall, so it's and the fish just move into the same thing they were on earlier. They just find another place like that that's in that depth that they like. But they were all in the brush. I was catching them. I was throwing a Cinco type bait, weightless, but I was working it real fast, and they were hitting it, not hunger hitting it. They were hitting it because they didn't want it in there. They were mad at it. And you could you couldn't see the fish. I could turn on my active target and see them up in that way, and just throw the end of the trees or the brush, and they'd come out of nowhere and just blast it. But like she said, by tournament day, I was totally shocked first day of the tournament that you could go in there, and I could even turn on my active target. There was no fish in there. I mean, they didn't pull it out. I don't know if the water fell 2 inches, a foot, or what during the night, but that quick it pulled them out of the back of them. I wasn't really in the very back of the creeks. I was just fishing them little runoff ditches and stuff, little pockets that had runoff. Yeah.
And I see I was fishing more of the brush along the main lake points, but they did the same thing. They just disappeared. I had a little bit of a topwater bite. I had a crankbait bite. I had a Texas rig and shaky head bite. And by the end of day one, it was getting tough and tough and tough. I didn't catch my fifth fish on day one until just before going in. And during practice, I had my 5 keepers every day by 10 o'clock.
Oh, isn't that the way it goes though?
Yeah.
And then day 2, what did I bring in? Maybe 3 fish on day 2. If I got 5, I think I only had 3 fish and stuff. So, but it is what it is. That's
practice every spot you go to in practice, you go stick one. I mean, you spent your whole practice just moving, looking for new water because it was so easy.
Yeah.
To catch them in those spots. And then that's why I'm saying it just blew me away that first day. And then I ended up the first day of the tournament, the last hour and a half, just pulling out on the end of the bluff walls and throwing shaky head or a big long point, and out there a little deeper, well, quite a bit deeper, and throwing a shaky head and a very small shaky head. So you had to be patient, let it drop that far, and get down in there. That's where I ended up catching my fish. And so I stayed on it all day the second day and done quite a bit better.
So, Secret, you were talking about how you're using a Senko type lure, but you're working it fast. Would you mind elaborating on that?
Basically just working it about like what you would a fluke, or I would just a jerk bait, just working it really, really fast.
Oh, so you were nose hooking it.
I mean, it had to be moving and flashing, and it was a bright, bright color. And then, it had to be, I just think it just makes them mad. I mean, they don't want it around.
So you were
it's a reaction, but nothing hungry, because they sure wasn't going to eat anything. How many nights do we have a big bright moon?
Oh, almost every night, full bright moon.
Yeah. So they wasn't hungry for nothing. So
now, if we'd had a night tournament, that might have been different. But
every time I'm driving out to go fishing someplace, I usually have to leave about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm driving out there and I'm seeing that moon. I'm like, I stayed home 3 weekends in a row. Now look.
Full moon and the water clarity there, you can probably see 8 to 10 foot deep.
Yeah.
So they were up all night long feasting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the minnows, you can see them silhouettes of the minnows perfectly in clear water.
But she was right. They had to be up against something, So I was catching, right up against the base of trees, right against laydowns, right in the middle of buck brush. I used my Humminbird 360 because as I was going through areas, I was actually, during practice in the first day of the tournament, my buck brush was in 6 to 8 feet of water. And so I was using my Humminbird 360 to let me know where, as I was moving through in practice, finding the different clumps of buck brush and stuff that I was fishing.
So were they up against that? But you said
they were in. No, they weren't up against. They weren't up. They were in it. They were.
Yeah, they were backed up in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you couldn't even see them on your forward-facing sonar, could you?
I don't have a forward facing. So okay. Secret has it. I don't.
I had it, but there was no need for it there because you could literally look down and see them. My partner, I swear, the partner the second day, I told her, I said, well, we know there's fish in here. I said, look down. I said, there's a 3-pounder cruising right along in front of you. And she's like hitting him on the head with her lure, and they wouldn't even look at it.
That's clear water for you, man. You got to love that.
Yeah. But if you get it in that brush and you pull it through the brush, especially for me, I had to go on the back side of the brush and bring it up and work it through it. And that's when I was, a lot of my bites were on the back side when I was dragging it up, starting to drag it up.
So what were you pulling through this brush, Cheryl?
I was using a Zoom mid-sized brush hog.
Okay.
They have a mid-size, not the baby brush hog, not the full size, but a mid-size.
Oh, I'm very familiar with
that. And so that was what I was pulling through on a Texas rig. But I was also getting bites on my crankbait But again, I was having to hit the bush and really pull it into it from the backside.
Make them mad.
Hmm.
Make them mad. That's
Yeah.
an expensive hobby there. Pulling crankbaits with buckbrush.
I didn't lose any. I've got to go
Oh,
get her. I'd go get
good for
them.
you.
But
Good for
also
you.
too, if you fish crankbait enough, you can feel when it's going into it, and if you pause it, working it all the way through and being patient. Now there, I did get hung up at times, but it's just, but that was not my primary. That was not my primary bait.
Well, yeah, I like those brush hogs. I like pulling those through cypress knees. Where I can find a really good nest of cypress trees. There's 3 or 4 of them in a place. And there's like
Exactly.
5 or 600 cypress knees. You get something big, particularly in the deep summer like we're in now. I like using the full size. I like using big chunks, big chunks of stuff like this is the Missile Baits D-Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Something big chunk like that. Pull it through that.
You need to go to Caddo Lake. You can find you 3 or 4 cypress trees there.
Where's that?
You need to go to Caddo Lake, Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
You can find you 3 or 4 trees there.
3 or 4 of them, yeah. Well, that's
3 or 4 million of them.
It's similar to where I fish. Like I like to fish the Atchafalaya Basin. It's just miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of nothing but that.
Yeah.
I've never been to Caddo. I'm going to have to get up there. I work with a couple of guides on Caddo. They're always sending me pictures of 10-pounders. Come on, Jay.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got
We
some
call
big ones up there.
Have you guys done an event on Caddo Lake before?
This
Several.
year. We were there this year.
Let's talk about Caddo Lake. Boy, you can fish shallow or you can fish shallow, right?
Well, we actually had some of our anglers who are not shallow water anglers, that they actually were able to find fish off the channels of the river.
Okay.
And they were catching fish. What was it? Leslie and Terry both were talking about they were catching fish that were off in 15 to 20 feet of water.
Lisa Johnson too, wasn't it?
I think it might have been. Yeah, they couldn't find a consistent shallow bite, and they finally just said, "Look, I'm just going to fish what I know from where I live." Terry is from Tennessee. Leslie is from St. Louis, and Lisa Johnson's from Alabama. She loves to fish Gunnersville, so she knows about the grass and stuff. But yeah, they all were like, we can't find a deep bite. I mean, a shallow bite that's consistent, and it's too many trees. It was overwhelming, so they just they started looking where all the little trails and stuff started dropping off into the big cypress bayou and found fish. So they were fishing deeper water. So you can fish it deeper and so forth. And so it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You asked, how would you do it as a weekend angler? How would you attack a lake? And you just have to look for things that look like you would fish at home and see what you can find there. Fish your comfort levels. Because if you get information, if you look at a fishing report for a body of water, I could copy and paste that same fishing report to 24 lakes in my area, and they'd all say the same thing, and they'd all be just as vague. So you just have to look at what is your comfort zone and break the lake down. Secret is amazing at taking a lake map. I know paper maps are becoming obsolete. I live and die by them. But Secret is really good about breaking down a paper map and going, I want to look at this, and this. And looking at, this is what this means. This is how I would look this. This is what at home it looks like. So this is what I'm going to look for on a body of water. I do a lot with Google Earth and so forth with that. And looking, because I can go back, there's a little time clock. I really hate to tell this information, but it does work. At the top of Google Earth Pro, there's a little time clock, and you can actually take and turn a lake back in time and see it at different times of the year over history and see some of the things and going, wow, I never knew that lake had that in it. It's kind of like Lake Mead out in California or Nevada, wherever that is.
Mhm.
It's so dry that they're finding all these boats and bodies and things like that. I don't want to find any bodies, not like that, but using that to go back and go, there's a brush pile there, there's a rock pile there. That's got big chunk rock. This has got small stuff. And so using those tools to help break down the body of water is a great way for a weekend angler to go in. You don't have time to go during the week. You might be able to go the weekend before and practice to break down where you're going to a new lake. But Secret's the
Cheryl,
one for the expert for the paper stuff.
you said something there, Cheryl, that we talk about every week on the Bass and Magazine podcast. You said comfort level, and I would say that differently as confidence. That's every person we've ever had on has talked about confidence, and most people, even the top pros, have confidence lures, and confidence presentations and confidence structure. Like, I like to fish riprap shorelines. That's what I grew up doing up north. Now I like to fish cypress trees. I know what to look for in a cypress tree. I know which side of the cypress tree to cast to. And with riprap shorelines, I know what to look for. And anything that's different, if it's a little deeper someplace, you're going to find fish there. If there's a small point, even if it only goes out like 2 feet, that's the thing that keep that fish key in on. And just like you said, look at something that reminds you of home.
That you have to go to your comfort. Because if you're not fishing your comfort, what you're comfortable fishing, you won't even fish it right. You can't hardly do what somebody else tells you to do. Unless they're just hammering some silly bait that you've never fished before, and a 3-year-old could throw it out there and catch it. But otherwise, you got to kind of go with what you're comfort with, what you feel real comfortable throwing, and that you can catch fish that way, and it just comes with it. But throwing something that you don't even, it's really hard for somebody to do something somebody else tells them to do without actually getting out there and learning that lure and doing it themselves.
Well, and even if somebody gives you waypoints, the way in which they approach that area or that spot,
yeah,
I fished with a local club several years ago on Lake Fork, and the lady in the back of the boat, I was fighting. This was before spot lock. I was fighting the trolling motor, fishing the same exact bait in the same area, and she was catching 5-to-1 fish to me. But it was, she even, to the point she came up, because the wind was so bad, she even put on the exact color that she was using, and I still could not catch the number of fish but there was something about the presentation that she was doing. So what Secret said is key. You can hear, go fish this lure, go do this. But if it's not something you're familiar with, it's you're not going to fish it right.
Yeah. When I was fishing the BFL, I tried to stay out of dock talk. I found it distracting. People saying, "Oh yeah, you got to go here and do this."
If there are fish in an area, and they've isolated fish in an area, if I hear that, but most of the time you're not going to hear anything that's going to be of value, right? Then I can go and I can use my techniques to maybe find the fish, but not to fish it the way they're fishing it. I'm wanting to learn how to do better with jerk baits. I don't do well with jerk baits because I don't fish them enough.
I bet you
But
Secret
that's
does.
So do you fish jerk bait, Secret?
Some. It's
Really?
really boring. It's really boring. I just don't have the patience to. I've seen people catch them. Smokers catch a lot of fish on jerk baits because they can throw it out there and twitch it a couple of times, smoke a cigarette a little bit, and then when they get back to it, the fish is on it. I just can't.
Did you see how Hank Cherry works a jerk bait?
Yeah.
Did you see him on Gunther'sville?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
And
he
he's
worked
doing
very
that in the
fast.
middle of winter. In the middle, well, it's not the middle of winter, but he did that during the Bassmaster Classic in March. And it's like, look at how he's doing that. That's cold water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is.
Because I've used jerk baits up in Sturgeon Bay in Wisconsin, and gin clear water, and that's like you say, the smoker's presentation. Actually, it was a smoker who taught me how to do that. He said, you reel it down, sit there, light a cigarette, smoke, 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 smoke.
Yeah.
That's my line. I'll go, okay. He said sometimes he'll have two. I fished with him. He said sometimes he has 2 cigarettes in before he gets his first cast done.
No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you might as well fish. That's like catfishing.
Yeah.
No.
But
a lot of people like to use jerk baits up there on Kentucky Lake, don't they?
Yes, and I can't remember what year it was. We had a spring that we didn't have that much rain, and so our water was really clear, and the elites come up here, and we have smallmouth. We knew we had good smallmouth, but it was just perfect, absolutely perfect. And they were weighing in whole limits of smallmouth, and they were 7-pounder smallmouth. That's been
7-pound smallmouth
6-8 years ago. Oh yeah. And now the smallmouth have they're kind of like dominant on this lake now. I mean, we're getting up there to close to Cumberland and some of them other lakes now.
wow, that's nice. That's nice. I've heard that Dale Hollow in Tennessee is a monster smallmouth lake. Don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard.
I got my absolute butt kicked one time up in Wisconsin on Lake Winnebago. I found largemouth that I was really proud of, a 3.5-pound average, bag. I was proud of that. I told my partner, we might take open check, man. This is a really respectable bag. And we came in, and these guys, it took a 4.5-pound average, and all those guys are bringing in 5 smallmouths, and that's tournament fishing, that's just tournament. Somebody's always going to find them, and usually it's half the field that finds them, particularly if it's a tournament that's dominated by locals,
Well, we're fixing to go. Our classic is at Logan Martin, so of course, that's the Coosa River spotted bass. So there is not a funner fish in the world to catch than those. I mean,
let's talk about that. How do you approach spotted bass differently than you would approach largemouth bass?
Oh, what I've always believed is that if you hook a spot that is too small, once you let it back in the water, the rest of them hear about it and they leave.
You're a social fish.
Tattletales.
They got it. They just tattle. We've got spotted bass in Texas. We've got them on some of the lakes and stuff that I fish. I don't go out and target them, and so I don't know that I have a really good answer on that, other than you go smaller. In my opinion, that doesn't mean I'm right, but that's been where I've had the most successes with smaller baits with the spotted bass when I'm targeting those.
On the last time, or not the last time, we've been to Logan Martin a couple of times, I guess. One tournament that I won there, they're so aggressive. I mean, the Coosa River spots are so aggressive.
Yeah.
Especially early in the morning. I mean, they school up. I mean, you can. So the deal was go and get your limit, early, and try to just cull those out later in the day. Of course, Logan Martin runs pretty good current. So I would go and catch my spots early in the morning and try to. You can weed through 20 of them before you finally got one a good size. I mean, smaller baits, like she said, but then when they were kind of suspending out off of a point, I wanted to throw a little heavier bait so that it could fall through those smaller ones faster, and get down to where the larger ones are on the bottom. But then you can just, as soon as they turn that water on, I made a mistake that tournament that I won on first day. I made a mistake. I had a spot right out by the river channel, and I took off early and went out there to get on it to protect it, just so I could be on it when they turned the water on. Well, they didn't turn the water on. And I had to make my way back closer to the marina. And by the time I got to my last spot that I was going to fish close to the marina, they turned the water on. So I didn't have time to go back and fish that spot. So the next day I said, I will be on that spot when that water comes on. And I had a limit of my spots that I caught earlier. And then I caught two limits of largemouth. I called them out twice on that one spot just as soon as they turned that current on.
Yeah,
And I throw a big jig, a 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce jig out there compared to a finesse jig or shaky head or even a wacky Cinco or something, for the spots earlier. That was the difference in them.
But yeah, they are very current oriented, and they're tough when the current's not flowing. It's much more challenging. But as she said, the spots are very aggressive.
I first encountered those at a small little lake my mom and dad were living on in northern Arkansas, and I saw fish jumping out in the middle, and I asked Dad, are those stripers? And he said, no, those are spotted bass. They don't bite. We're not going after them. We're not going after them. So we're going to sit here and fish for bluegills? No. Put me on that trolling motor. And
they'll chew your fingers off. They just, the whole time you get your thumb in their mouth, they're sitting there chomping on your finger.
Yeah. But I finally got them on a smaller buzz bait, because they were hitting the surface, and I couldn't get them on spinner baits, couldn't get them on square bills, couldn't get them on glide baits.
No, don't be cheating with the live baits.
No, glide baits.
Oh, glide. Okay.
They don't go up and inhale a bait like a largemouth. They don't have the volume, their mouth is just smaller, and they go up and they nip and bite and just beat it to death before they finally decide to eat it. You almost have to try to take it away from them, and then they'll say, okay, they'll run back and eat it. Where a largemouth just goes up and inhale it,
Because I had no idea, being from the north, we had those spots, and so, I was just casting those.
They're traditional baits, yeah.
Spinner baits, yeah. Then I put on a buzz bait, and all that Dad had was a little one. And I told him, this damn thing's just too small. It's not going to get any fish.
And then you caught one.
First cast, man, that thing devoured it.
Yeah. And then they fight like there's no end to the world. I mean, or the world's coming to an end. They're spastic.
That and the Coosa River spots are way, way stronger. They're raised in that river, in the current, and they're just a mean fish.
But
I love that.
Coosa's known for some 5 and 6 pound spotted bass.
Jeez, that's got to be close to a record, huh?
Yeah.
So they're big. So you can hook into some big ones up there. Or over there, I should say.
Your tournament trail goes all over the place. You're talking about so many fun places to fish. Like Lake Caddo, there's where the guy I use for a guide up there catches probably 25, 30, 10 pound plus fish a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
how much did
Port does that doesn't
Sherry Jacks caught what was hers, 9 something this year?
Hers was a 9.5 pounder. One of our co-anglers caught a 9.5 pounder on Caddo. I've had an 8.5. I've had an 8.5 pounder on Caddo before many years ago. So they're there. They are there.
What a great! I love cat. Up north I just didn't. When I was up on like the Great Lakes, I every time I cast it, I knew I might catch a new personal best smallmouth. But around here, every time I cast, I know it could be a 7 pound plus.
Oh
fish.
yeah,
I love fishing those. Our place that Cheryl lives, could be a 10 pound plus fish.
Yep.
Particularly this time of the year, Chuck Justice guides for 10 pound plus bass. That's what he specifically targets.
Right. But you also may only get 2 bites a day when you're targeting just the big fish.
That's okay. I don't fish tournaments anymore, so that's okay.
But yeah, it's it can be.
If I'm targeting big fish and I don't get a bite, that's fine. I call it high stakes fishing, because if I do get a bite, it's gonna.
You would hope that it's a big one.
Lay that hook into it. Oh no, I'm snagged. Oh nope, it's not a snag.
So we have one of our sponsors, Vicky's Threadworks, does a fun little thing, because we do want ladies to be excited about fishing, and so she sponsors a Tiny Bass Award.
Tiny
So
Bass Award. That's
on the
funny.
yes. So was it $50 a piece, Secret?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the person weighing in the smallest bass, legal, they get a
Wow.
$50 check.
That does a
So
whole new, wow.
well, you think about it. I mean, yeah,
Oh, no, that's cool.
everybody wants the big bass award, and yes, that's great. And we have a couple anglers that they're like, if they catch the tiny bass, they will not have their photo made with it. They don't mind getting the $50 check, but they don't want their picture made with it. But
I,
it
me
just
I'd
and
go with that. I would do that. Heck yeah,
me
man.
and who's it? Rigel and then Stephanie, all three. We were in weigh-in line, and I said, I definitely got the smallest bass. And they said, there's no way. And both of them, we was looking at all three of our bags, and we weighed them, and they all weighed 0.57. We all three tied for tiny bass.
Oh,
so, but it just adds a little different
man.
element to the tournaments
It does.
because, if typically the person, not always, but typically the angler who wins the event has the biggest bass. That's a trend. Well, there can only be one winner. And so, it's nice to give out all the extra checks and stuff. And we have a great sponsor, our Joey Ridgel Septic and Sanitation Services. They are our year-long big bass sponsor. So
We have another comment here.
Sure.
Cleveland Rob said several of your lady co-anglers have done well in our Bassmaster Opens and Toyota Series this season. He said his hat's off to him.
Yes, we have the ladies are not shabby fishermen, and that we think of a co-angler as being someone who is a beginner and so forth. In our group, Secret, wouldn't you agree? We have professional co-anglers because some of them, one, they may not have a boat. Those that do, they don't have the vacation time. But they represent their sponsors just like those of us who have the boats.
How about Gary?
And so
I mean, this is a man, but Gary Haraguchi has won over $400,000 in his career, and he has never fished as a pro. He's always fished as a co.
So we've got some ladies who do great. We had a number of ladies who represented us well at ICAST at that big tournament down there.
Yes.
Pam Ridgel and Noella McLaurin, I think, finished third. We had another couple of ladies that who was it that
Sherry Jackson.
Sherry Jacks, okay.
Darla Yoakum. No, was it Darla? Anyway, they finished like in the top 5 or so. So we had quite a few ladies who did well down there, went there and did really well.
And guys, in case you haven't noticed, I put if you want more information about the lady bass anglers, I right here's their website on my crawler at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead and log on to that if you're interested in getting more information about this.
And we appreciate that. One of the things you would ask us to kind of make sure we had a list of, Jay, was, we have tremendous sponsors. We've got Gary Yamamoto Custom Wagyu Beef and the Inn at BK Ranch are our title sponsors. So Gary's ranch out there, his beef ranch is one of our sponsors. Eric and those guys at Livingston Lures have really stepped up and done a great job. They at every one of our events, if you're a spectator, we give out tickets while we're doing all the calculations on the championship day. That we do a drawing for 10 free Livingston lures, so you have a chance of walking away as a spectator with a Livingston lure. High Tech Outdoors, High Tech Outdoors. It's up there. I mean, those guys do an amazing job with all the electronics and outfitting the boats and things like that. They've actually now doing a boat dealership. Isn't that right, Secret?
Yes.
And so forth. Ships Marine here in the East Texas area. We've got a woman-owned business For Her Outdoor Apparel. They have come on board this year and offering all sorts of discounts. So if you look at our digital magazine, you can get a discount for purchases on their website. Soremouth Tackle from up the Illinois area. They've come on board. Are they Wisconsin or Minnesota? Illinois? I can't remember which one, but they've come on board. We've always had Yozuri as a great promoter, so our anglers walk away with those. Ducket Fishing's on board with us this year. So it's another good one. And then we're also very blessed that we have Toyota bonus bucks. So our anglers get the same bonus bucks awards opportunities as the Elite Series do. So we're very
Okay.
blessed with having that. Have I missed anybody's secret that you can think of?
I don't know. I have to look at the trailer.
So you mentioned a digital magazine. Where would a person go to look at your digital magazine?
So if you go to our website, I'll see if I can pull it up here to make sure I'm telling you the right thing. Yeah, the ladybassanglers.com. And once our page opens up, you'll over on our header, it'll be home, then tournament info, join the LBAA, our team, and magazines and promos. And
There you
so
go.
we put out at least 4 digital magazines per year. We promise, that's what we promise our sponsors. And so I think our last one was 60 something pages, Secret?
Yeah.
That's
So-
awesome. Look at this. You have a bunch of charters or chapters.
Yes. So we have 2 federation chapters. We have the Tri-State Federation, which is made up of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi. And then
Okay.
we have the Indiana Bassingals from the old Bassingals leagues. They
Sure.
have a federation with us.
And the women's bass tour is a tri-state federation, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so what those federations do, they fish in their region, their local areas, and then they are able to qualify a boater and a co-angler to fish our championship.
Okay. Well, you have all kinds of things in here. You have angler blogs.
So we have quite a few things going. We've moved more of our angler blog stuff to being articles within the digital magazine.
Sure.
And so forth. So that has become our sponsors like that. So if you click on a sponsor ad, it takes you to their website.
I'm looking through what people have blogs. One of them is Kay Lowe. I've had Kay Lowe on the show before.
Yes, she fishes mostly the tri-state now. Travel is just a challenge, so she fishes regionally.
She was the one who recommended Secret York to me.
Yeah.
She's a very good angler, a very good person.
That's interesting. This is a huge it's a lot of people in this community, but then again, it's pretty small. Everybody knows everybody else, it seems.
Yeah.
There are some connections there, yes. Very much
Wow.
so.
So guys, if you're watching this, particularly if you're a lady, you want to get involved, please log on to ladybassanglers.com. These people are extremely, extremely active. You two have boy, those are some interesting places you target. Bull Shoals, I'd love to go back there. I haven't been there in probably 20 years. Yeah, my daddy was still alive last time I fished there. We went out there on his boat.
We have a tentative schedule for 2023 that Secret has been working on. We really are needing a place more on the eastern coast or towards the east to fill in a spot that we thought we had filled. So if there's a location out there that is interested in us coming there, we've got a couple of feelers out. We've got one of the ladies working on an item. We're waiting to hear back from her, but we have one spot left open for 2023. And
interesting. Boy, I would immediately say the Potomac.
That's a little bit far north because we have the vast majority of our boaters come from Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. And so, we try. Yeah. We actually have had, what's the place up in Minnesota, Wisconsin?
Mille Lacs Lake or something like that. Mille Lacs.
Minnesota, yeah.
No, this one is one of the ones where the big boys have fished.
It's
the Mississippi River, up on the Mississippi River.
It's probably
Lacrosse. Yeah, that was it.
Lacrosse has invited us up there.
I think I fished 15 or 20 tournaments up on Lacrosse. I love that place.
The problem being is that
Froggen City.
The problem being is that such a haul, you're talking.
It's a 2-day drive for you.
And I'm in the middle of the country. You're talking about our ladies coming from our North and South Carolina and Georgia. You know, we have to be careful as we do our events that we want to focus and make sure that the anglers that fish with us all the time, that we I guess we'd say honor their travels. We don't want
Yes, I'm glad,
everybody to be driving along all the time.
I'm glad people are starting to think about that. Remember the old days of the Bassmasters, where they'd have one tournament down on Kissimmee, and then they go to Clear Lake in California. It's like a 5-day.
Well,
Yeah,
Secret
I'm
does an
glad people are
amazing
starting to
job.
think about that,
Well,
We
Secret is
try to
always
spread them out.
Yeah, we want our
Yeah.
anglers to have the balance of the travel. And so it's a challenge, but that's and Secret does a great job. She does the scheduling,
Okay,
and so she does a
Rob,
great job.
Keith Rob has another comment here. He says, "Come to Lake Cumberland." He said they have great facilities in Somerset, Kentucky, and plenty of hotels and restaurants.
And smallmouth,
Smallmouth,
big smallmouth.
better numbers than smallies. Yeah, Dale Hollow is better size, from what Rob says.
Yeah, I've heard of Dale Hollow. I've heard rumors of that place, but we also have to have enough sponsor dollars from the local area to be able to support an event. We get invitations all the time, but it comes down to, it really boils down to, we have to have somebody who's willing to pay us to be there.
Exactly. It all takes money. It all takes money. I'd like to thank you two ladies for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and spend some time talking to our viewers here on the Bass Magazine podcast.
It's been real.
We appreciate the opportunity.
And I appreciate, and I know Brad does too, that you guys took time out of your schedule to come and talk to us. We like to get a good cross section of bass anglers. And one of my priorities has always been, I like to have ladies on as well as men, and I like to promote particularly female events like you guys organize.
We got some pretty good female college anglers coming up.
Really?
It'd be something you need to touch on, yeah.
That's like, I've had a couple on, like Lee Rose Goza. She fishes for Carson Newman over in East
That's
Tennessee.
one of the things that we would love to get out to the college ranks, is that we offer the college ranks to, just as we do with the federations, that the college ranks can send a boater and a co-angler to our championship each year. They determine how they qualify. And so right now, I think we are looking at waiting to see if Emily Freeman has a partner to come in from one of the Kentucky areas colleges. But if there are any college young ladies out there and so forth, your division, your school, your whatever can determine how to qualify college ranked anglers to our championship in October. And all the information on how that happens and so forth, they can email us, Cheryl Bowden, I think it's cbowden@ladybassanglers.com, or S. York at ladybassanglers.com, and email us if they want information. It's in our rules on how to qualify for the championship. But we would love to see some of our college ladies. We know that they can't necessarily fish all of our events. We would love for them to, but it's like anything else. They've got to work on their schooling. They got to work on their college tournaments.
Yes.
But to be able to qualify, because they've done the work there, we kind of count them as a federation in its own, and they can qualify for our championship through their own division and own point systems and so forth, or however they choose to do it.
That's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. But anyways, I'd like to go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say thank you for having us on. We appreciate it. It's always nice to have the support and get it out there, because that's the one thing that we have people say all the time. I didn't know you existed.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm here. I do this podcast, and also I do the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. So I'm podcasting just about three to 5 nights a week. So please stay in touch. I'd love to have y'all on again. When is your championship?
October
20th to the 22nd.
20th through the 22nd. Yeah.
Okay. Just get in touch with me after that. I'd like to have you on and talk about the season and talk about the championship.
Okay.
Where will the championship take place?
It's on Lake Logan Martin out of Lincoln, Alabama. Lincoln has put in and built a magnificent new facility for tournaments. Les Robinson is the gentleman who is over that park. He has done an amazing job. Robin Duncan was the original person who got that rolling, and I don't know how many millions of dollars have been poured into that, but they actually can host a 200 plus tournament, and it's right on the river. So unlike the other locations that, once they drop the water, you couldn't access them anymore, this one is right on the river.
Yep.
And it's right at mid-lake. So you got a 25-mile run or 27-mile run to the Weiss Dam or the Neely Henry Dam, whichever one it is, and a 25-mile run to 27-mile run to the other dam. So you're right at mid-lake.
What a great location. What a fantastic location.
Wow. Yes. So,
wow.
But again, Jay, thank you for having us on. We appreciate it. We'll be in touch.
Please stay in touch. I'd like to have you two on again. If you contact me, I can usually get you on a podcast that week. If it's not the Bass magazine, you can be on mine. So anyways, like I said, guys, thank you to everybody, particularly my two guests, for tuning into the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine is the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. And with that, I'm going to tell all my viewers, have fun this weekend. You only get to do this once. And please stick around, you two.
All right.